Hi guys, Coach Ghemlich here. We're reading Tom Swift, Inventor's Academy, and I'm going to read Chapter 10, which is located on page 85. Chapter 10 is called The Communication Escalation. Tom, Sam asked through my earpiece, are you there? We're here, I whispered as we left the server room. Where's Mr. Conway? He and that guy are now in the computer lab, she replied. Let's get out of here, said Noah. Amy's coming to meet us. We jogged through the hallway, and I saw Amy run down the stairs as we approached the security door. She ran up to the door and punched a code into the keypad outside. The door unlocked, and we stepped out. If you knew the code, why did you swipe the key card? Asked Noah. I didn't before, Amy replied. I followed Mr. Conway down, and I watched him enter it. 8384, by the way. Cool, Noah grinned. When all this is over, we can get our drone back. How did you keep from getting caught down there? Amy asked. Noah and I exchanged a look. That's another one of those the less you know, the better things. The three of us ran upstairs and met Sam on the first floor. Is everything set? She asked. The hacker tracker is good to go, said Noah. Hacker tracker? I asked. What are you talking about? That's what I'm calling our drone, Noah replied. Oh, so now you're all on board, asked Sam. I thought you didn't believe Conway was Shadowhawk. Noah raised his hands, and I still don't know for sure, but I heard that guy with him mention Swift Enterprise's security system and something about the computer virus. I don't know what they're up to, but they sure weren't in there talking about custodial stuff. I smiled and nodded. Okay then, let's get here early tomorrow and see what the hacker tracker picks up. We can see what they're up to in the computer lab right now, said Sam. I looked around. The school was nearly deserted by this time. I think it'll be pretty obvious if we're snooping now. Yeah, all right, said Noah. He pulled out his phone and began to type. I'll text my mom for a ride. He looked up. You all need a ride too? Yeah, sure, said Amy and Sam. I'm good, I said. My dad's just next door. I told him I was staying late, so he's working late. The three of them took off, and I dug my phone out to text my dad. Before I did, I seriously wondered if I should tell him about what we had discovered. After all, this was the security of his company. The bits and pieces we had picked up were enough to pique Noah's interest. But was there enough for my dad to take seriously? And to tell him what we had learned so far, I would have to tell him everything we did to get that information. Borrowing Mr. Conway's badge, sneaking into the basement past the security door, eavesdropping in the server room. We looked more like criminals than Mr. Conway. There was no way to get away with all that stuff without solid proof. Then again, for all I knew, Mr. Conway and his accomplice could be stealing company secrets right now. Maybe I should just swing by the computer lab and check up on them. If I was careful, they wouldn't even know I was there. Ping! My phone chimed in my hand. I glanced down and saw that I had received another mystery text. Why are you still in school, Tom? The text asked. Ping. I told you to let it go. Ping. You're going to be sorry. I looked up from my phone and scanned the hallway. I was completely alone. How did this person know I was still here? Then I saw something. A figure peeked around the corner at the end of the hallway. I froze. Was that Mr. Conway? The height was about right, but I couldn't make out the face from this distance. The person was hidden behind the corner. My heart pounded as I stared at the mystery figure. I didn't know what to do. Was I busted? Was it Conway and he'd been onto us the entire time? If so, why the weird, taunting text game? This person obviously knew who I was. There was no point in holding back. I gathered my courage and took a step forward. Hey, I shouted. Who are you? The figure ducked back behind the corner. Wait, I shouted, running after the mystery person. I made it to the end of the hall and turned toward the stairs. I heard footsteps from above, so I followed. I dashed up the stairs and spotted the person running down the second-floor hallway. He wore a hooded sweatshirt and jeans. I couldn't see who it was, but the body shape didn't match the heavy-set Mr. Conway or the tall, thinner man I'd glimpsed in the basement. There was a third hacker? This was a bit overwhelming. How many people were in on this conspiracy? I had to know who else was in on this. I poured on the speed and almost forgot that the computer lab was just to the left. "What's going on out there?" Mr. Conway asked from inside the lab. I slid to a stop and nearly stumbled as I spun around. I darted back to the stairs. I made it back to the first floor when I heard footsteps above me again. Great. Not only would I not identify the mystery person, but now I also had to dodge Mr. Conway. I sprinted down the first floor hallway. Luckily, the floor was completely empty. Nothing more suspicious looking than a kid running from authority figures. I ran to the first classroom I came to. The door was locked. I scrambled to the next one. It was locked too. Mr. Conway's footsteps grew louder, and I knew there was no way I was getting to the end of the hallway before he made it to the first floor. I tried the third door, my first period algebra classroom. It was open. I slipped inside and pulled the door closed behind me. I crouched and quietly turned the lock just to be sure. I stayed motionless as the footsteps grew closer. I held my breath as Mr. Conway jogged by. When the footsteps were gone, I breathed again. "You're a bit early for tomorrow's class, aren't you, Mr. Swift?" asked a voice behind me. I almost yelped in surprise as I spun around. My legs flew out from under me, and I slumped to the floor. Miss Talbot sat at the teacher's desk. Her hands were poised over the computer keyboard, and she glared at me over the rim of her glasses. "Oh, I stammered, scrambling to my feet. I was just—" "What?" she asked. "Playing hide-and-seek with your friends? Aren't you a little old for that sort of thing?" Well, my mind raced for something to say. Actually, I was... Miss Talbot smirked. "I suppose when your name is on the school, you can get away with all sorts of things." I frowned. If this lady weren't a substitute teacher, then she would know things were the exact opposite. When I first attended this school, it was all I could do to prove that I wasn't going to get special privileges because there was a junior at the end of my name. Sure, I get access to some of the equipment at Swift Enterprises, as long as it's not classified. But so do some of the other students, and not just the ones whose parents work there. That was the great thing about this school. I opened my mouth to protest, but Miss Talbot cut me off. "Tell you what," she said. "I'll forget I saw you if you'll forget that I was here." She pointed to the mound of folders and books on the desk, and the fact that I'm woefully unqualified to teach algebra. I've had to stay late just to familiarize myself with Mr. Jenkins' lesson plan. I wanted to argue. I really did. I wanted to let her know that I didn't get special treatment from anyone. But a little voice in the back of my head told me to let it go. I was getting a pass on this one. I wouldn't have to lie and make up some lame excuse about running through the halls. I could just walk out of there, and Mr. Conway wouldn't know it was me he was chasing. I bit my lower lip. Yeah, I was really tempted. "Okay, thanks," I said finally. I unlocked the door and left the classroom. I walked out of the school with my pride a little tarnished as I texted my dad for a ride.